It's awesome to be here with you all again. And today we're going through a stress challenge. So very excited to be doing this with you. I think it's incredibly relevant and something that every single person needs to be looking at. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see what I'm sharing, please. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So what we're going to go through today is a stress release challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. We're starting today with day 1. We're going to be going through until Friday. Each day we're going to be doing a different aspect of stress and how to kind of navigate it, how to manage it in our lives. Okay, so we're going to start stress is really, it's our body's alarm system. Okay, so we're going to start to look at that. We explore the physiology of the stress response, understand what our body is telling us when we get stressed. Okay, why it happens, and how to kind of manage that. Okay, so let's have a look. All right, so we're going to learn about something called the polyvagal theory. Okay, our bodies have what's called a vagal nerve, which is super important in helping us manage stress. So we're going to go a little bit into that whole how the vagus nerve works and how to activate that, which helps us come back into that rest and relaxation kind of phase. We're going to understand what stress is saying, how our body reacts to stress, and then exploring the stress response and the whole brain and adrenal connection, because that's what happens. Our brain communicates with our adrenal glands, and that then starts to produce cortisol, adrenaline, and all of those kind of hormones that trigger everything. So stress is more than a feeling. Okay, super important to understand that, because we think we write things off just as just stress, and it's not just stress. Okay, stress is the body's non-specific response to any demand made upon it. Okay, so anything, I mean, like all of our daily activities, trigger stress. It triggers stress. Okay, in the old days, it used to be, I mean, we were under real threat. Okay, we were being attacked by wild animals, etc. Things like that used to cause stress. And in order to defend ourselves, we'd go into that fight or flight. So obviously you either have to run away or you have to fight. And those are the two ways that our body kind of deals with that stress release. Okay, is by fighting or fleeing. But now we get stressed when we're driving to work, we get stressed at work, we get stressed at home. And it all triggers that same stress response, but we're not fighting or flighting. Okay, we're not running away, we're not fleeing, we're not fighting. We're just sitting with that stress inside our bodies. And day after day, we sit with more and more stress, and we're not letting it out. So that starts to accumulate, and it starts to cause all kinds of issues in our body. Okay. So chronic stress is really where the big problems start to happen. Okay. Obviously, we're releasing cortisol the whole time, adrenaline, and that triggers a whole lot of different things in our bodies if we don't get rid of it. Okay, so let's move on here. All right, so now we're dealing with the HPA axis. You may or may not have heard of it. It basically stands for the hypothalamus-Pituitary-and-Adrenal glands. Okay, hypothalamus is situated kind of at the bottom of your brain in the front. It's a gland, and that stimulates the pituitary gland. So stress will impact on your hypothalamus. The hypothalamus then speaks to the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland will signal your adrenal gland. and adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands sit just on the top of our kidneys. And they will start to release stress hormones. So that starts to trigger that whole mechanism of stress. Okay. So that's what happens. That's really the core of the whole mechanism of stress. The hormones that are involved, as we mentioned earlier, the adrenal glands start to release cortisol and adrenaline. Okay, so adrenaline is our fast and immediate surge kind of hormone. So that will trigger us to run or to fight, all of those kind of things. Okay, cortisol is much slower, it's more sustained, and it's kind of the marathon hormone of stress. So cortisol lingers and it stays in your body and it starts to cause all kinds of different impacts. Okay, we'll go into that a little bit more just now, but it does trigger things like insulin resistance, weight gain. It causes a problem if we want to try and lose weight. All of those kind of things. So 80% of our immune system is also in our gut. Okay, so sustained stress and sustained cortisol has a very, very big impact on our immune system. So if 80% of the immune system is in the gut, we need to be looking after our gut. Okay, it has a big impact on the gut. Okay. All right, so the polyvagal theory. Okay, so the vagus nerve is kind of called a wandering nerve. It's our wandering nerve, which is kind of weird, but interesting. And it really helps our brain. It kind of explores our body. It looks at it's reading our body to see what is happening in our body and help us to respond to what's happening. So the vagus nerve, it starts in the brain, obviously, and then there's a little diagram there. If you have a look there, it shows you all the different areas that the vagus nerve can impact, okay? But it plays a massive role in everything going down from our throat into our chest, into our abdomen, okay? It impacts our gut. The vagus nerve is part of our parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is much more of that fight and flight. The parasympathetic is the rest and relax. So the vagus nerve plays a big role in rest and relaxation. Okay. And in order for our gut to function properly and for us to even be able to digest food properly, we need to be in that parasympathetic state, that rest and relaxation state, because otherwise we cannot digest food properly. We can't, all of those kind of things in our bodies, those systems become influenced. So, so the polyvagal theory describes three nervous system states. We'll go into that a little bit more next. It explains how the body responds to safety and to threat. So understanding these different states is super important, okay? All right, so the polyvagal ladder. All right, so we start at the bottom here with this immobilized state, okay? And that is where we are super stressed, okay? Feeling completely disconnected, numb, hopeless, moving into that depression. Like stress at that kind of level is very, very severe, okay? You end up with burnout, you end up apathetic, lethargic. It's quite hectic. All right, and that's very much the end state of stress. Okay, so depending on how long you've been in that stage of stress, that's often where it ends. Okay, the second one here, the mobilized state. Okay, that is where you're experiencing that fight and flight. So you're in the wired state, you're very hyper, you may be quite anxious, angry, you're ready for action. Okay, so you're feeling that stress. Okay, you're not feeling exhausted. When you get to that immobilized state, it's often a feeling of complete exhaustion as well. You just are constantly tired. You've got nothing to give. And then if you look at the top one, okay, that is a safe state. All right, you're feeling calm, connected, curious, and I would say creative. Okay, we cannot be creative or curious if we are stressed. If we're stressed, we're in survival mode. We're just trying to get through. Okay, so that creativity, that curiosity, that space where we can actually start to be more of ourselves is when we're in the safe space. Okay, and really important to understand that, and we need to move towards that. Okay, so stress signals, the different ways that our body starts to understand stress. Okay, we need to be monitoring ourselves. Okay, checking in with ourselves, and it's part of mindfulness, and mindfulness is very, very important in managing stress. Okay, so identifying our primary stress symptoms, like checking into our bodies, like, where am I? Okay, what am I feeling and why? What has triggered this? Instead of so it's almost taking yourselves out of your body and looking down at yourself from a bird's eye kind of perspective and saying, okay, so just watching your emotions, watching your feelings, and from a bit of a distance, and saying, okay, so what am I feeling and why? What's triggering this? And just emotions will come and go, thoughts will come and go. So just observing it and not allowing it to get, too much of a hold on us, not being absorbed by what is going on inside our bodies or in our heads as much. Okay, just allowing our body's space, our mind's space to know, okay, so I'm feeling this, I'm thinking this, it's okay, it'll pass. Okay, and then we can rate our understanding of our stress signals. Okay, just, even out of 10, like, what are we feeling? How much stress is it causing? And explore the different aspects of our stress response. So all of that, just being aware of what is going on in our body, how are we feeling, and what is it, what is it triggering? Okay. All right, so really today we've just gone through an understanding of what is stress, what does it do to our bodies, what are the different kind of areas it can impact. We'll go more into all of the ways to handle it and so on during the week. Okay, but what we need to understand, stress is a full body physiological response. It is not just a feeling, it's not just something in your mind. It has a massive big impact on our bodies. Okay, so stress, because of its impact on our gut, can cause constipation. Constipation in itself will make you sick. Okay, it can cause lots of disease if that isn't managed. And just as a side thing, okay, constipation is having less bowel movements than the meals that you are having in a day, basically, in summary. So if you are having 2 meals in a day, you should have 2 bowel movements in a day. If you're having 3 meals, you should be having 3 bowel movements in a day. So those kind of things are very important to monitor. Okay. Your HPA axis drives the hormonal stress response. So again, that's your hypothalamus-Pituitary-and-Adrenal axis. So those are the 3 different areas and glands involved that are part of the whole stress response. And then your nervous system dictates or your nervous system states dictate how you experience the world. Okay, so again, that goes back to that polyvagal bladder. Okay, where our nervous systems are at will dictate how we're feeling about the world. Okay, if we are super stressed and we're burnt out, we are going to have nothing to offer. We are going to be completely apathetic. We're going to be not interested in anything. Okay. If we are in that fight and flight state, we're probably going to be hyper, very aggro, angry, ready to fight, ready to run, just not in a good, relaxed space. Okay. And then obviously, if we're in that safe, calm space, then we can function. Then we can really be who we are. We can give what we need to give to whoever we need to give, and to work and to everything. So yeah, so just be aware that a lot of how we're feeling and how we're acting is dictated by our nervous system and the state that we are in. So give yourself space, allow yourself, just be gentle with yourself. I think we're so often hard on ourselves, and yeah. So tomorrow we're going to explore the link between stress and sleep. Okay, why quality sleep is so important. Okay, it's massive. If we're not sleeping well, it's not going to help our nervous system. It's not going to help our stress levels. And again, if we're stressed, it's impacting on sleep. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. And we'll go through some techniques to learn to improve our sleep. So yes, that's the end of that. I hope that helped everyone. If there are any questions, please, you're welcome to shout.